Regardless of who you are, whether you're a businessman, a student, homeless, or even Batman, I guarantee you've heard of the game Terraria. After all, it's one of the highest selling games of all time, with a reported 58.7 million copies sold. It's known for its vast world with crazy exploration, extensive and diverse crafting system, and of course, its countless boss fights.
Die, you fleshy beast!
But what if I told you there's another game that also does those things incredibly well?
You serious?
I'm dead serious. Now, I know that most of you probably know what game I'm talking about. Core Keeper. What else would I be talking about? Since it first became available back in 2022, Core Keeper has seen countless comparisons to Terraria. I mean, just look at it. You can instantly see the resemblances from style all the way down to mechanics. Don't get me wrong, in no way am I saying that Core Keeper is better than Terraria, but I think it could be after some time. Pause. Before you start typing out your hate comments, just hear me out for a second. Terraria has been around for a long time, and while it will always hold a special place in the gaming community, there does eventually come a time where the torch needs to be passed from the old to the new. Core Keeper is taking the core values that people love about Terraria and bringing them into a new light. For those of you saying, oh, it's nothing like Terraria, you're just clickbaiting us. Trust me, I put my fair share of time into the game, so just stick with me and it'll all make sense. Developed by Pugstorm and published by Fireshrine Games, Core Keeper is a 3D survival sandbox game, similar to the likes of Minecraft and Terraria. More so Terraria than Minecraft, but I digress. If you're a casual in the gaming community, there's a 0% chance you've heard of either of these companies. For starters, Pugstorm is an incredibly small studio founded in 2018, based out of
Linköping.
Outside of Core Keeper, they've only developed one other game, known as Radical Rabbit Stew. You've probably never heard of it, it didn't really see much success. Now, for those of you that are a little more involved in the gaming community, you may have heard of Fireshrine Games. Formerly known as Sold Out Games, Fireshrine Games was founded all the way back in 2014. Since their founding, they've been responsible for the distribution of a plethora of popular titles. Games like Sniper Elite 5, Lies of P, Descenders, Overcooked, and many more. Fireshrine is known for their amazing ability to distribute and sell games like no other, and Core Keeper is no exception. Like I said before, Core Keeper first became available on Steam on March 8th, 2022. Within just 1 week of release, it reached $250,000 in sales. A week after that, it doubled, reaching $500,000. And by July of the same year, it crossed $1 million in sales.
Impressive. Very nice.
This is something that is incredibly hard to do, seeing that not only was the game created by a small indie studio with no reputation, but it wasn't even in full release. It was still in early access. I mean, the support for the game was insane. Players loved everything from the art style all the way down to its core mechanics. Like Terraria, some of Core Keeper's major mechanics include exploration of different biomes, an extensive crafting system that acts as progression, and of course, a plethora of bosses. In Terraria, from my own personal experience, you spend an absorbent amount of time underground, whether it be to mine ore, find a weapon, or just make it to the underworld. You're underground for a long time. Core Keeper takes that idea and completely embraces it. From the moment you start a world, you're underground. And believe it or not, you remain there for the entire game. Crazy, I know.
That's crazy.
Whilst underground, there are a total of 6 biomes to explore. While this doesn't even compare to the amount of different biomes that Terraria has, it makes up for it in another way. Progression. Core Keeper's progression is tied directly to 2 different things, exploration and crafting. Those 6 biomes that I was telling you about all hold their own special ore. The core has copper, clay caves have tin, forgotten runes have iron, so on and so forth. As you explore, you'll find these different biomes, thus allowing you to find the next tier of ore. After finding the next tier of ore, you're then able to upgrade your workbench to the next tier, which allows you to create better and stronger tools. Again, otherwise known as progression. I know what you're thinking. Oh, I'm just gonna go to the final biome and get the best ore so I can be overpowered. Well, the devs actually thought of that and came up with a way of keeping idiots like you from blitzing the game and becoming OP. Their solution was bosses. Kinda like Terraria's Wall of Flesh, there are certain parts of the game that are locked behind boss fights. These boss fights keep you from becoming overpowered by rushing endgame gear. Core Keeper managed this by keeping bosses in groups of 3. Imagine a trio from Pokemon and you'll get the idea. The first ring you see consists of the first trio. After beating them, you unlock the second trio. Beat them and unlock the third trio. You get the idea. And for those of you asking, oh, why can't I just skip a trio? It's because there's a wall that literally blocks you from going to the next trio unless you beat the previous one, so don't get smart. The other form of progression that I mentioned was crafting. Now, this is secondary to exploration and defeating bosses, but it's still incredibly important. Like Terraria, there is no shortage of different crafting benches you'll have to unlock and make while playing the game. For starters, there are 8 different types of workbenches. Yes, 8 of them. Other than the workbenches, there are also alchemy stations, anvils, furnaces, cooking pots, electric tables, wardrobes, and many others. Honestly, it's a little much. As you play, you unlock all of these different stations that allow you to craft anything from a bow to armor down to a paintbrush. It's honestly amazing the amount of effort they put in the crafting system. It's not some half-baked system where you can craft 99% of the items in the game with the same crafting table you get 30 seconds into playing. Outside of the core mechanics that I just explained, Core Keeper also has a few differences that set it apart from something like Terraria. Terraria, the most prominent being individual aspect leveling. For those of you that have no idea what that is, it's fairly simple. The more you do something, the better you become at it. This system is commonly seen in MMO style games. More than likely, you've seen a video on YouTube with some sort of title that's like, how do I get to max level in said skill? Trust me, they're everywhere. Other than the core mechanics in the game, Core Keeper also does a great job of standing out through its unique art style. While it does look like Terraria with its pixel art animation, that's honestly where the similarities end. And in my own opinion, I think Core Keeper looks way better than Terraria. Shocking, I know. Unlike other games in the same genre, Core Keeper utilizes a 3D pixel art style that offers a more dynamic and immersive visual experience. It's kind of like a mix between something like Terraria's 2D charm and Minecraft's 3D exploration. It finds an amazing balance between the two of them and lets it stand out from the rest. On top of that, they also use dynamic lighting and shadows. This adds a level of depth and realism that you typically don't find in similar games. Sure, you could use shaders in Minecraft to achieve it, but that's essentially a mod. I don't have to mod Core Keeper in order for it to look amazing. It does that on its own. Another thing that sets it apart from similar games is that Core Keeper actually has a story. Disclaimer, it's not a very in-depth story, but still a story nonetheless. When you first start a game, you're hit with a short cutscene that kind of sets up the rest of the game. You're in a forest as part of a group of adventurers when you feel a strange presence. That strange presence that you feel is none other than the core. As you reach out to touch it, you're instantly teleported underground, thus beginning the story. The story is essentially defeating the 3 trios of bosses and then the final boss of the game. Each time you defeat a trio, the core gets stronger and unlocks more of its power. After defeating the 3 trios, you approach the final boss, which holds the rest of the core's power. Once you defeat the final boss, the core then regains its lost power, which puts you into a final cutscene. In this cutscene, you learn that the core had been corrupted, which allowed for others to take its power. However, now that they've all been defeated, the core is once again operational. The core then thanks you and teleports you back to the surface with a special crystal that will allow you to tell the story of your heroic adventure, thus ending the story. Like I said, not a crazy in-depth story, but enough of a story to make you feel like everything you're doing has a purpose. All in all, Core Keeper stands as a first in the next generation of sandbox survival games. While it clearly draws inspiration from something like Terraria, it also expands and evolves mechanics and gameplay that players have already fallen in love with. The game's commitment to a rich crafting system, intricate progression, and engaging bosses keeps players hooked while still providing the charm that they'd received from its predecessors. While Core Keeper may still be relatively new, its innovative approach and thoughtful design suggests it has the potential to carve out its own niche in the gaming world. So whether you're a longtime fan of sandbox games or just looking for a new experience, Core Keeper offers a thrilling journey that's worth exploring. Hey guys, thanks again for watching the video. If you enjoyed, go ahead, leave a like and drop a sub. The support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll catch you in the next one.